Today I'm going to discuss everything about this gaming setup. A lot has changed since the last setup tour I did in 2014. The room itself has also changed, which I'll be covering in a separate tour of the entire room, so subscribe if you haven't already. Let's begin with a little background about how this setup came to be. I've been playing video games in one way or another since the Atari 2600 days. Around the year 2006, I got very interested in retro gaming, revisiting the games I used to enjoy, but also discovering ones I missed. I started collecting a lot. Once I had a lot of game systems, I spent a lot of time hooking and unhooking them up to the TV. So I started looking for ways to have all my systems stay hooked up. I browsed photos of people's collections on the Digital Press website, but I did not find exactly what I needed. I then reached further into the internet and began walking through brick and mortar stores until I eventually found all the components I needed to make this happen. The setup became operational in 2011 with 25 systems surrounding a CRT TV. That's also the time I joined the YouTube community. In 2013, I expanded to 44 systems and added the LED TV. Now the setup sits at 47 systems. To play a system, I just walk up, do a few things, and then I'm ready to play. I have also made it so that I can record the game footage easily. All the footage of my game reviews was captured from tapping into this setup. There's obviously a lot of cords, but I keep most of it under control using twister seals and Velcro strips. There's also places to tuck in the cords where needed. The controller cords have enough length on them to reach the chair that's in the center of the room. If a controller cord is in the way of the TV screen, I can slide it into a hook. The wires that connect the systems to the TV have all been networked, mostly through chains of switch boxes. I had to create diagrams to keep track of it all. There are 5 different networks, one for each of the 5 main signal types found in America: RF, composite, S-video, component, and HDMI. There are also a couple of game systems that are VCR based, so there's a separate network for those. The guiding principle behind all this wiring is extend wires where needed, but not more than what's needed. Long wires degrade signals, short wires limit what you can do. A lot of thought was also put into electricity and how to get it distributed to the systems safely and without being wasted. The electricity runs through these rack mount power supplies. They are intended to be used by DJs to power their equipment, but they obviously function well for a setup like this. Each gaming device has its own switch. This is an important point. Even a system whose power button is off still draws some power, so the switch on the rack mount stops that from happening. No power is being consumed when I'm not using the setup. The power bricks that a lot of these systems have rest on top of the wire shelving, connected through tiny extension cords. Sitting on the shelf wiring allows them to dissipate heat. The wire shelving that I use is the same kind used for food pantries, though it's very unconventional to have it configured the way I have. I took multiple kits and connected them together like Legos. Wire racks allow you to tie up the video game wiring. There's also more ventilation for the devices that a bookshelf or entertainment system cannot provide. I put 2 layers of shelf liners on each shelf just to keep things from falling through, and to keep things from sliding around. There's also a TV stand under the CRT TV. My mom bought it for me on one of my birthdays a while back. Not much else to say about that other than thank you, Mom. To keep things organized, I have a lot of labeling. For some things I use numbers and other things I use abbreviations. The numbers have turned out to be easier to use. With numbers, I can move the systems around without changing the labeling. As I mentioned, there are 47 systems in all, and they are grouped together in a certain way. On the top left side is a grouping of systems that output S-video to the CRT TV. The 3DO, Saturn, Neo Geo CD, Super Nintendo, PS1, an S-video modified Genesis, and a Sega CD, N64, GameWave, Jaguar, and Jaguar CD, and Dreamcast. If I want to record footage from this group, I turn on a splitter and bring this dazzle out from behind the stand, then plug it into my laptop. Here's a diagram of it all. Near the right corner, I have a group of systems that output composite to the CRT TV. The Nuon, the 32X attached to another Genesis. The 32X is not compatible with the S-Video modified Genesis that I have on the other side of the setup. I did have a 32X modded to have S-Video output, but it did not turn out well. So this is just a regular 32X that outputs composite. There's also the CDI, the NES, the Atari XEGS, the TurboGrafx and the Turbo CD, the Neo Geo, and the Sega Master System. When I want to record from these, I swap out some cords so that their signal goes to this splitter. The rest is pretty much the same as the S-Video side. There's another dazzle to hook it into the computer. Along the bottom, I have a bunch of systems that output RF. The Astrocade, the 2600, the LGN Video Art, the 5200, the Viewmaster, Channel F, and Television, ColecoVision, 7800, Odyssey 2, Studio 2, and the Arcadia 2001. Within this group, there's also the Action Max, the VCR-based system, but it doesn't output anything. Whenever I want to play any of the RF systems, there is no switch box to hit. Instead, I go to this spot and swap a couple of cords. When I want to record, I do another cord swap, which connects them to the VCR, which in turn converts them to composite, and then I split the composite. It's complicated. The two VCR-based systems, the Action Max and the Viewmaster, take a little bit of extra cord swapping to play, on those rare occasions that I would actually want to play them. Many of these RF systems have short controller cords that are hard to extend, so I made it so I can pull those systems out onto the floor. Moving to the right side of the setup, there are 4 systems that output component. The original Xbox, the Wii, the GameCube, and the PS2. I have a powered switch box that needs turned on before I play. To record, I swap out the cords coming from the back of that box, which sends the signal to the Elgato game capture, which then sends it to the laptop and sends it via HDMI to the TV. Finally, there's a set of modern systems that output HDMI. The Wii U, the PS4, the Xbox One, the Ouya, Xbox 360, the PS3, and Vita TV. For these, I use a couple of HDMI switch boxes that require power, but don't require you to hit a button on them. To record these, I just plug them directly into the Elgato. Rounding out the setup is a Virtual Boy and Vectrex. The Vectrex can be played from where it's at, and the Virtual Boy can be played by bringing it out from the setup to the recliner. You've probably noticed the trays that are underneath many of these systems. They allow me to tuck in the controller cords, and they are by far the most important discovery I made when exploring ideas. I found them inside an office store, but after I bought a bunch of them, I never saw them again. I was lucky on that one. When I extended the setup to 44 systems, I had to get past a couple of challenges that are along this wall right here. One of them is a window and the other is a vent. For the window, I had concern about sunlight fading the systems. Also, I didn't want the light coming in to oversaturate the view as I'm playing something on the TV. I decided to shut out the light completely with cardboard. You can't tell it's cardboard from the outside, it just looks like a curtain. The markings on this box are only on the inside part. I then hung a flat curtain over it, which matches the color of the wall, so you hardly even notice there's a window here. The heat coming out of the vent and affecting the systems was also a concern. It could not be blocked since it's the only heat source in the room. So I have this deflector on it that's attached with magnets, and it blows everything downward to the floor. I also insulated the bottom of the shelf so that the heat doesn't radiate up toward the systems. Another small thing to point out is that I have a charging station behind the TV where I can charge controllers and batteries. Even though I'm happy with this setup, I do have to spend a lot of time keeping the systems running properly. I was in the middle of playing Rayman 3 and doing a review for it when my Xbox just stopped working. Getting it fixed has not been easy. My Intellivision has also stopped working, and the Turbo CD. I'm getting better at repairing electronics. I've been able to repair Game Gear systems, the Sega CD, and the Virtual Boy, but I got a lot more to learn. The bottom line is, don't collect as many systems, unless you're motivated to do the repairs. So what do I have planned for the future of this setup? Two things. Number one, getting some nice speakers, so I can harness the stereo sound of all these systems. And number two, harnessing SCART from some of these systems. Many of you will understand why I would want to do that. I am also planning on getting new systems as they get released. There's already a spot for the new Nintendo system whenever that comes out. I will probably not get any of the virtual reality headsets until the prices come down. In the end, I'm happy that I can be entertained by all these systems, and it feels good to have conquered a big challenge and getting them all hooked up at once. Of course, this is just stuff, and having it is not as important as other things in life. I hope you enjoyed the tour. See you around.